What is up, my friends? We are back, myself and David Lynch, to have a look back over yesterday's game against Chelsea, and of course, a little look ahead to the game coming up against RB Leipzig over in Germany on Wednesday. David, you were at the game yesterday. First question I have for you is: did the conditions play much of a factor in the game?
Yeah, to be honest, incredibly, I don't think so because I just think because of that new stand now and the height of it, maybe I just didn't notice it was even windy. I mean, it wasn't even bad kind of when I got there at Anfield like 3 hours before kickoff, and then I just totally didn't notice it during the game, and then walked out and just got hit in the face by the storm that had been quietly brewing outside. So I actually don't think it had any effect on the game. It just had an effect on me trying to get to my car, walking through Stanley Park, nearly getting blown away.
I can imagine Stanley Park is very wide open, yeah. So I can
Yeah.
imagine in the elements there, that must have been a bit of a battle. And to be fair, there was a battle on the pitch as well. Now, where I thought we'd start off today is, giving credit where it's due. John Brooks, he's some boyo, isn't he? Yesterday, it was refreshing to see, David, that once again the PGMOL continue to be the gold standard of refereeing excellence around the globe. The epitome of consistency, I think we'll all agree on.
Yeah, it's a funny one really with John Brooks because I actually think you kind of look at the big decisions in the game, and I actually think you've got to say he probably got them all right, or with the help of VAR, I would say he got them all right. But I thought his general management of the game was poor to such a degree that it's all even forgetting the big decisions, I still think he was absolutely terrible. I mean that one at the end with Darwin Núñez and the kind of 50-50 shoulder challenge. I mean he was given free kicks very early doors for little kind of tiny nudges. Then he was trying to let some go, and then it seemed that any time a Liverpool player after that kind of got near to a Chelsea player, he was blowing up the other way. I mean, the Darwin one, as I say, is just the most egregious because you ever seen a clearer kind of shoulder to shoulder challenge, and Darwin Núñez dared to win it. And then he blows up, and I just think there was loads of those sort of moments in the game. And as I say, managing it well, letting things go sometimes, not letting them go on other occasions, and you kind of lose the respect to the players at that point, and you create the atmosphere which it really helped with that. So that's the upside of it, I guess. But I think people were justifiably annoyed because I think it was a really, really poor performance from the referee, even allowing for the fact I generally did agree with the big calls he made.
So for myself, if we're looking at, I guess, the two penalty incidents, first one nailed on penalty as far as I'm concerned. Jones was kicked. Second one, yeah, I agree. Having a look back at it, keeper comes out, he does get to the ball. I think it's that flick of the arm. Some people were just a little bit unsure of. I don't think it was anything from Robert Sanchez that he was trying to hurt Jones or anything like that. I think it's just a human reaction. So I think I can agree with the referee and yourself on that one. But I tell you, it's the red card, David. It still sticks in the throat for me. I think on the weekend where you've got two title contenders playing in two big games, similar but not identical incidents. Of course, there was a little bit of a distance between the covering defender for Colwell and maybe the one in the Arsenal game, but there was a lot of similarities there that you could certainly say it tested the consistency levels of officiating.
Yeah, for me, I respectfully disagree on that one. I think they got it right, to be honest, because I just think that the proximity of Colwill, you look on the shape of the ball as well, because it's a left footer in Salah. The curl is coming away from the goal there. I just really struggle to see that Jota would have, he may well have got it clearly away there, but I don't think you can say it's a guaranteed sort of nailed on goal scoring opportunity that's been denied there because of Colwill's proximity. I think with Saliba, that for me, and unbelievable the reaction online from Arsenal fans has really sort of surprised me there, to be honest. That one with the distance that Ben White was away from that situation, the way that the ball was curling, that's been a red card for how many years now? Particularly Evan Nielsen had a 5 yard head start on him as well. So yeah, for me, I think they got that one right. Really, it would have been nice to see Tosin get sent off at that early stage. And by the way, he doesn't exactly know where Colwell is. He takes a real risk there, and he's lucky to get away with it. But I do think the right decision was arrived at that one, and I also think the right decision was arrived at with Saliba being sent off, which of course is quite a big boost for Liverpool as well.
It absolutely is heading to the Emirates next weekend. And there was one more refereeing incident, I guess, that played a big part in the top of the table yesterday, and that was in the Man City game. I'm sure you've probably seen the goal at this point. Now, I've got no qualms about Bernardo Silva being in his line of sight. I think he wasn't. I think that's fine. But I do have some issues about Bernardo Silva knocking the goalkeeper off balance so he couldn't set himself. As a former goalkeeper, I know the importance of being able to set yourself in those positions. And Again, David, my qualm with this is why are we sending the refs over to look at it in slow motion when it looks like the keeper had 2 or 3 seconds then to adjust himself afterwards. So line of sight in that one, no problem. He wasn't in his way. But I do have issues with Bernardo Silva's little back into the goalkeeper.
Yeah, so the only decision they could have got there is, as you say, the moment John Stones heads it is the only moment that Bernardo can be offside. And at that point, when he does head the ball, Bernardo is out the way. He's crouching down. You can see it when you line them up that they're not in line with each other at all. So he's not in the line of sight. So I thought a good call on that. The only way you could have probably overturned that goal is to say it is a foul as the ball is delivered from the corner rather than an offside. And for me, I'm just not sure there's enough in it. I mean, the
But remember,
goalkeeper.
David, the goal was given on the pitch. It wasn't that the goal wasn't. The goal was ruled out on the
He
pitch.
ruled out on the pitch, yeah.
So that means for VAR to
But,
intervene,
but
they are
then,
only intervening on the offside. So the goal was disallowed on the
but the key
pitch.
factor there is that it's disallowed for an offside, which then is proven. They've got evidence there, and it's quite an objective offside because it's in line of sight. You can. Sorry, not objective, subjective offside. So the referee has to be called over to check that. So he's checking for the offside. At no point is a conversation happening about potentially disallowing it for a foul by Bernardo Silva. So for me, they could have looked at that and seen the foul and thought, yeah, but I just don't think there's enough there to call a foul on that one to rule that goal out for a separate reason once you've ruled it back in for the offside not counting. So yeah, I just don't think there's enough in it. And I think the keeper, for me, it's kind of a foolish decision, really, because, I mean, by pushing Bernardo Silva away, he allows himself to get in a situation where he's not set at all. If he allows Bernardo Silva to mess about and do all that, he gets called offside as soon as John Stones heads it. And also, if he's not pushing about, maybe he's better set anyway to save the shot. So I just think Wolves have themselves to blame for that one. I thought it was poor from the keeper. Well worked set piece, great header. And would have loved it, by the way, if that goal had been ruled out and not given. That would have been great for Liverpool. But yeah, unfortunately for me, that was fairly awarded. And I think, a big decision in a tight moment, an important moment in a game. As I say, I agree with the decision. So for me, that was a good use of VAR. But I totally get that there are different opinions out there on that one.
Yeah, for me, this is a situation where you put your defender on Bernardo Silva and let him jostle with him to keep you free as a
Yeah.
goalkeeper. Moving on, though, I wanted to just speak about the start under Arne Slot. We're now 11 games or so in, David, without a draw. It's almost unheard of for us. Draws have been our Achilles heel for a long time, and I tell you what, I prefer this style of winning ugly at times and dropping 3 points once off this season. I'm really pleased with this start, David. I don't know about you, but wow. I think only Pep Guardiola has beaten. I think he won his first 10 games, if I'm not mistaken, Pep. So 10 out of 11 for Arne Slot. It's incredible.
Yeah, and the draws thing's kind of interesting as well, because under Jurgen Klopp, you would have said, they're a little bit more gung-ho. There may be a side who goes to try and win the game when they're drawing rather than not holding. And whereas with Slot, it's a bit more conservative, and yet they haven't drawn yet. They're just that one defeat and 10 victories. So it's a bit of a strange one, really. And you wonder is it just a little quirk that's happened or whatever. But the one thing you can say is that Liverpool, deserve to be top. I think on the basis of performance, you look at all the underlying numbers. I think the best defence, but also the best underlying numbers in defence so far in the Premier League. I think the second or so for expected goals for as well. So the attack is working, and as I say, the underlying numbers show that they deserve to be where they are, and they've won in a lot of different ways as well. So they've dominated some games in possession. They've had games where they've had to dig in, like yesterday was a really, really good example of that. So just winning in totally different ways and looking so solid and hard to beat as well, which I think is something that we all really craved after last season, where it was a little bit chaotic. Just wanted to see a little bit more solidity and control, and I think the speed with which he's implemented that is hugely impressive. I think there are areas to improve, no doubt about that, in terms of they won't want to be dominated in possession as much as they were yesterday, perhaps, and I think in attack a little bit more slickness is possible, and I think we've seen it from Slot sides in the past. But wow, I mean, all that said, these are small things to tweak going forward, and it has been an unbelievable start, really, for a new coach to come in and implement his ideas this quickly.
I have to say, it's very refreshing and very exciting to be able to talk about these things we can still improve on off the back of a set of wins like we've had. And like you said, I think a year ago or in years gone past, we draw that game yesterday. We probably leave there 2-2. And you know what, David? To be fair to Chelsea, probably couldn't have complained about that. I thought that they were very well organised yesterday. As you said, there wasn't much between the two teams. And I'm just happy that we came out on the winning side of it, because this will matter come the end of the season. And in years gone by, I think everybody will agree we could have easily let that game go. But that solidity that you spoke about yesterday was very apparent to see.
That's it, because I think, Chelsea kind of surprised me as well, I would say. I didn't think they'd be this far along, and the way they did dominate possession, and found that really impressive. And obviously, after spending as much as they have got a collection of decent players there, and they can threaten, and they've got good subs to bring off the bench as well. So it was a really tricky game, but I just loved how, for all the possession that Chelsea had, the way that Liverpool managed them through the game, even though at times I thought Chelsea were finding it too easy to create numbers in midfield, so they were outnumbering Liverpool there and passing through them. Even every time that happened, Liverpool getting bodies back, making sure that they were solid, making sure they were hard to play through after that, and making it hard to create really good shooting opportunities against them. So yeah, that was really, really impressive how Liverpool did that. And like I say, it's been a kind of a marker of the performances so far, and something they've done regularly. Really, is just looking unbelievably hard to score goals against. So you get your rewards in big games if you are that. And as you say, I think last season, with the way it was, you would have been very nervous Liverpool having to see that out. And yet Chelsea didn't in the end create any massive opportunities to win it, really. I mean, that even the Vega header, he's right underneath it, really. It's not a clear-cut opportunity because of where he is, and he's under pressure. So yeah, I just thought Liverpool managed that well, and that bodes well, because like I say, there are things that they need to tweak going forward, and they will be working on to be better. But if you've got that defensive solidity as a basis to work from, then you're giving yourself a chance in every single game of keeping a clean sheet and maybe winning, or keeping it tight and maybe winning. So yeah, that's really, really good news, I think.
It's been a massive 10 days or so in the life of Curtis Jones. Obviously, he welcomed his first child into the world, which congratulations to himself and his partner. Scores and creates the penalty as well yesterday. If we can see this consistency of performance, David, from him going forward, I think he'll shut a lot of people, and I've got to say, including me at times, up about the inconsistencies, because we know what Curtis Jones can do. You can see it in him. You can see the ball carrying ability. Sometimes maybe we feel he holds on to it a little bit too long, but yesterday, deservedly man of the match, was a man of the match winner in our post-match poll that we did in our match reaction show as well. And just good to see, and I hope he can continue this.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned actually kind of holding onto the ball. I've kind of, speaking to someone over pre-season period, and sort of, I think that is something that the manager actually spoke to him about, is being a little bit more quick, speed it up in terms of, or being able to judge when to speed it up and when to slow it down, and having that judgment for setting the pace in midfield is something he actually wants to see Curtis Jones improve. And I think we've all seen that really down the years, that's one of his small weaknesses he's got, but in terms of his strengths, very rarely gives the ball away, and really good at winning it back as well, whether that's through an aggressive press or just nicking it in midfield. And as I say, just so solid, and the goal threat and the ability to create in the final third. We haven't seen so much of that in the first team environment. He's been reformed almost as a more solid midfielder. But I remember watching him come through the youth team. And when he got into the 18s, when I think he was 16 or so, and just he was he was an unbelievable attacking threat in that team, and playing off the left a lot of the time as well as an attacking midfielder. So he has got that in his locker. So hopefully, he can keep that and add that back in, and bring that as well, because that will make him almost a complete midfielder, because he does everything on the defensive side that you want. The key question for him, of course, is that he has to stay fit, and I think some of his inconsistencies, or I would say the majority of his inconsistency, is based in the fact that he can't stay fit consistently, and therefore he doesn't get a run. He doesn't, and he's always coming back from a problem and losing a little bit of rhythm. But if he can stay fit for a little while now, there's a real chance for him to play games, particularly because you look at Szoboszlai, he's a little bit up and down, still doing the defensive work, but not maybe delivering on the ball as Liverpool might want. So maybe there's an opportunity there for him to push his way into the midfield. And if he does that, and he can stay fit, he can play consistently, and hopefully keep showing these kind of performances in this sort of form, then that is a huge bonus for Liverpool, because they know how good he is. But it's just about that consistency and producing it over and over again.
Absolutely, and another option for Arne Slot that he trusts in midfield certainly wouldn't do any harm as the season goes on. Our audience have asked me to ask you a couple of injury update questions, if that's okay, David. So obviously Jota is fresh. We don't really know yet what's going on there, but anything you may have heard around that, and of course Federico Chiesa and Harvey Elliott and their comebacks.
Yeah, so Jota to have a scan today was I asked this morning just to have a scan today, have a look at that. Little bit of pessimism that he'll be involved on Wednesday, which I think the manager actually reflected post match. So, I think he'd be surprised if he's back for Leipzig, but we'll see after that. It's just so reliant on what this scan comes back. And in terms of the others, Chiesa, I don't think he's too far away at all. I was actually kind of surprised that he wasn't back for the Chelsea game. But it was put to me today that he's not far away at all. So that's not looking like a long term or a couple more weeks or anything like that. It would be great if they could get him back for Germany, but we'll see on that one. Maybe he's quite close for that. But if not that, then maybe around the squad for Arsenal. So fingers crossed that's how that one plays out. But that's how it was put to me today. In terms of the others, Elliott not too far away at all. Again, maybe not as close as Chiesa. I would say he's just back on the grass, so that usually takes a couple of weeks or so to get you close to kind of first team full training and contact with that. But again, closer than he was, and hopefully back soon, because I think that's an important one. And have I missed anyone there? Obviously, Alisson out for a while yet.
I think we've covered everybody there. Chiesa, Jota, Elliott, Alisson. I think that Jayden Danns, I guess, would probably be the only other one who last time we spoke was on the field doing some running and starting to step up the intensity.
Yeah, so he really should be back soon. I mean, that again, he's on the grass, and he's probably a week or so into that, maybe a couple of weeks now. So really would expect to see him around training pretty soon. The other one actually is Connor Bradley, who again, not entirely sure.
Course.
Yeah, not entirely sure what the issue is with him. But again, it was put to me today, it would be a big surprise if he was involved in midweek. So, unless it's kind of a surprise recovery there and he makes that one, but not entirely sure what the issue is there. So I can't think of that one, but give exact details on that one. But I believe he's not expected to be involved in midweek, and then hopefully after that we'll see.
Well, injuries are starting to play a little bit of a role in the season, not just for us, of course, but right across the board. Are you expecting Arne to look to do anything in January, or do you think maybe it's going to be a case of consolidate this season and see what he thinks at the end of the year?
I don't see why not to go for someone in January. We've spoken about midfield there, and that need and possibly want is still there. I don't see why that would change. The only, again, there are options for certain players to maybe leave in January. For example, Joe Gomez is the chance he could have a look at it again and see where he's up to. And if the right offer comes in, that gives Liverpool a decision to make there. So no chance that would rule out January movement. Obviously, the key factor for Liverpool is who is available and if it's the right players that they want, because, they just will not sign someone on the basis of we want a defender, we can get this defender, let's get him. It's got to be the right one. So that is the only thing that would rule it out. But yeah, there's I would say there's absolutely a chance they can make additions in January, because they've done it consistently in the past as well. As much as they say January is a difficult market, Liverpool have made a lot of signings in that window. So I would sort of keep your eyes peeled for that one, and I'd say it's a possibility, absolutely.
Some of my favourite Liverpool signings of the modern era have actually come in the January window, and it is a more difficult window where usually if you're going into that window, you're looking to replace somebody who's had a season-long injury or something, or the manager's under a little bit of pressure, and none of those really apply to us. So I guess if a midfielder maybe pops up, David, that the club have been tracking perhaps, but sure, we'll talk about that a little bit closer to January. I did want to just ask you about the 3 contract updates. We'd obviously seen Virgil a little bit more optimistic, actually. And on Virgil, I want to just talk for 1 sec really quickly. And I'm going to ask you about the other 2 contracts so we can get into that. But the biggest improvement I think I would say I've seen under Arne Slot is our defensive structure, and quite how good we look now, and quite how much of a leader I can actually see Van Dijk being now. Because one of the things I had a question about in the past, and this is my own naivety to be honest, was, is he a leader? He was an absolutely top-notch centre-back and a good organiser, but I've really seen him step up since Arne came in and be more vocal. We've got the huddle that I think Virgil van Dijk put into play as well. So I just wanted to talk about the contracts and that solidity in defence, because it's been phenomenal, quite simply, this season.
Yeah, I think the reason we're seeing the best of Van Dijk is that he's in a setup that is much more stable than we've seen in recent years as well. He's being asked to do less sprinting back in one-on-one situations. I mean, he still can do that if things go wrong, and it often does in football. But it's largely much more solid, and so it's allowing him to just be the best centre back in the world, which I still clearly think he is. And on that setup, actually, I wrote something on my Substack. If people want to check it out today, that's davidlynchlfc.co.uk, which is about pre-season and the players being sat down by ARS Start and shown a presentation actually about how important it is to get players behind the ball as soon as the opposition break into the final third, how you can slow them down, the statistics behind that, and how often it results in a goal if you do that, or prevents a goal. And it's something I think you've seen the players really, really buy into. Sprinting back to cover off counter-attacks. Yesterday, as I say, I think Chelsea found it too easy to pass through Liverpool's midfield, but once they did that, they had nowhere to go because Liverpool immediately flooded in the centre and clogged things up and made it difficult for them. So I've written about that, but I think one of the upsides is obviously Liverpool's defensive record is much better, but I also think it's making things, it's just allowing Van Dijk to do his job, which is be an unbelievable leader and an unbelievable centre-half. So, huge credit to the manager, but also the players really for taking that on board.
And with regards to the contracts, Virgil, Trent and Mo, again, a couple of different things written today. There was talk that Mohamed Salah wants 3 years, which would take him up to 36 if that's the case. Virgil seems calm and optimistic, I think it's fair to say. And Trent, again, not being played out publicly, this one very quiet behind the scenes. So that makes me nervous personally. Quiet isn't always a bad thing, David, but it certainly makes you feel a little bit nervous as a Liverpool fan, really wanting Trent to get those terms.
Yeah, so just on Van Dijk, we spoke to him in the mix zone last night, so I had the opportunity to speak to Virgil. He's very, very generous with his time to stop and speak to us, as he does so regularly. But he was asked about the contract, and he said, the talks are ongoing now, which I think is a step forward. The last time he was asked directly about that in the mix zone, it was in pre-season, and he kind of said, well, nothing's happened at the moment. We haven't even spoken about it. So we've moved forward from there. There are talks ongoing. And I have this general optimism about the Van Dijk situation. As I say, he loves it at Liverpool. He wants to stay. Liverpool can clearly see the benefit of him staying. That one I'm very confident will get resolved, and it's good news that the talks are ongoing. But it's my understanding that the talks are ongoing at the moment with all three of them. So it's just a case of hanging in there and seeing how that kind of plays out. Again, with Trent, I just think they'll throw everything at that because he's too important to lose. He's heading into peak years, and they'll just give him a massive contract. The only spanner in the works is if he wants to go to Real Madrid. But at the moment, we're being told that that's not kind of his priority. He wants to speak to Liverpool and sort this out. So, hopefully it happens really soon. But, again, positive news, I think, around that. And Salah, as always, I haven't seen the reports today around 3 years. Doesn't massively surprise me that that's what he wants. But again, I think there's probably a need for compromise there. And maybe Liverpool would probably lean towards 2 years being more, safer for them. So maybe that's a difficult one to find that compromise on, and we'll have to see. But yeah, I think it's positive news that the talks are now ongoing. I think Liverpool do everything they can to get Trent at the very least wrapped up by January, and hopefully Van Dijk as well. Then maybe that gives them, then I think, a little bit of breathing room around what happens with Mo. And if that does need a little bit of compromise, a bit of time to work towards that.
Well, the two older gents of the trio certainly putting in the performances. Salah with a fantastic assist and a penalty yesterday as well. Virgil we've spoken about with those great defensive displays alongside Kanade and our two fullbacks. So yeah, fingers crossed on those, David. Now, obviously we head to Germany on Wednesday, and I just wanted to quickly ask you what you thought about rotation ahead of this one. Obviously 7 games in 20 days and not really too many handy ones in there either, Dave. Very difficult games coming up. Head to take on Arsenal next weekend. So are you expecting many changes from ARS Start as we head over to play Leipzig, who are, were top of the Bundesliga, certainly right at the very peak of the Bundesliga at the minute, playing very well. It's not going to be an easy game, but do we have a bit of wiggle room there maybe compared to the league and the Champions League?
I would like to think so. I mean, Liverpool have gone to Leipzig so many times recently, haven't they, and won and look comfortable there. And there is as much as they are playing well, there should in theory be a gap between these sides. And I think, it's not rotation for the sake of it, but I think, Liverpool have got such a big game coming up at the weekend. And I just think, the quality of the player that you can bring in is so high that this rotation, you're not losing an awful lot. For example, Joe Gomez was absolutely fantastic coming on at the weekend. Sure, is there not an opportunity for him at right back with Conor Bradley expected to be out? Jarell Quansah is still waiting for a game. Can you protect Canate and make sure he's really ready for Arsenal? I think that would be fantastic if Liverpool can do that. Up front, Diaz and Gakpo is a really easy swap, isn't it, to just give you instant freshness there. So I think that McAllister's already missed the last game, so again should be ready to come in for this one after his illness. So there are really easy changes, I think, to make that do not weaken Liverpool significantly and put out a side that is easily good enough to win out in Leipzig. So I would like to see 3 or 4 changes. I know we've seen from Slot he's not huge on rotation so far, but I think when these opportunities present themselves, it will be great for him to grasp them really. So I would like to see 3 or 4, but whether the manager agrees, we'll have to see.
So I did my preview for the game this morning, which felt really strange, by the way, doing that so quickly after another game. But I changed both the fullbacks in mine. I put Costas and Joe Gomez in to give the two boys a breather. Left Dom out in midfield to continue Curtis in there and to reintroduce McAllister. And then up top, as you said, Gakpo, Diaz, flip of a coin. And then Darwin most likely going to play through the centre because of the Jota knock. So that was kind of what I was thinking on this one. And again, you want to get that balance right. You want to go over there and try to get the result. But as you said, that big game next Sunday at the Emirates is huge for the whole season. If we can beat Arsenal, David, 7-point gap already.
That would be, yeah. I mean, I'm still quite, even though they've had the problems recently, and there's, Saka's mistraining again today. So, it'd be absolutely lovely for Liverpool if he misses that game as well. And Odegaard out, I think Saliba obviously out as well. So, Arsenal in a bit of a sticky patch at the moment, but they are such a tough team to beat, generally speaking. It's at their home ground as well, but it's just, if Liverpool could go there and get a result, as you say, 7 points at this early stage would be a crazy lead to have. It just, particularly because Arsenal have finished above Liverpool for the last couple of seasons as well. Just give them such a good chance to sort of flip that round and be the side who is challenging City or maybe is pushing for the title. But yeah, it's a big test to get through in Leipzig, and then we'll see how that one plays out. But that is the dream scenario, is to win these next 2, and then Liverpool will be in an unbelievable position, really.
Absolutely. It'd be hard to contain the excitement at that point, I won't lie, David. So I always have to give you a random link before we finish up to some player that most of us have never heard of before, in the hope that you have some gospel according to David Lynch to help us out here. But Bill Christian Falk speaking about Maksimovic, a youngster from Red Star Belgrade. All I can tell you about him, David, from my side is 17 years of age, Serbia's youngest ever fully fledged international. Welcome to this week's random link, Mr. Lynch. Anything on this one?
Yeah, so I haven't heard anything personally on him. I mean, it's very much one of those that I would put down as agent talk. Not to say that Liverpool aren't interested at all, because I think there is potential, and we've spoke about this many times, for Liverpool to add a young centre-half in as an option. Say Joe Gomez were to leave, they need someone who can come in as fourth choice, who's kind of first team ready, but not immediately wanting all the minutes to be playing week in, week out. So someone of that profile would kind of make sense that they're having a look at, but absolutely nothing advanced on that one, I would say. So it's maybe that's one that comes up further down the line, but at the minute there's nothing really concrete in that one.
David, I always appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure to chat with you and get your insight on the game and the team. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to check out davidlynchlfc.co.uk, David's Substack, his YouTube channel as well. And David, we'll catch up very soon, my friend. Thank you for giving up some of your time to have a chat with us.
Thanks for having me.